And we are back with the fifth segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this segment, we are going to talk about the Shaq and Draymond Green. They debated on a podcast talking about their respective championship teams. Now, I know the 2016 Warriors did not win a championship, but they did win 73 games, and they were the exact same team that won the championship in 2015. So it's more or less the exact same team. And to be honest, I really don't. Oh, wait, hold on just one second. Before I go into this topic, Lil Fettuccine, that's a nice name, has a question. Is Boston gonna sweep? And we talked about this in the first segment, and Eric, who hosts the wrestling podcast, he thinks that the Celtics are going to sweep. And to be honest, I think that they will too. If this is a big if Tyrese Halliburton doesn't return in any of these previous games. I think that the Celtics have already shown that they completely outmatch the Pacers. And I mean, but then again, like with the way that my picks have been going, I might just be completely wrong and they'll lose the next game at home. The Pacers are a very good team when they play at home. So I'm not incredibly optimistic about the sweep, but Big E is 100. Like Eric is definitely like incredibly optimistic about that sweep. So I'd say they. I mean, again, if Halliburton isn't in the series, then yes, I think the sweep is going to happen. But if he does play in the series, and if he does come back from going down in game 2, I wouldn't be surprised if the Pacers end up winning at least one game in this series. But yeah, I think the Celtics, they're going to give him the belt. They're going to get him out of here, and I again, just no shocker to me if they do. So if you want to hear more about what we had to say about that game, you can watch the video that I'm going to upload soon. After I do this live stream, it's literally the first segment where we talk about the game and what we think is going to happen. And Chris is a Boston fan, so definitely could hear some of his opinions. And Fettuccine has another thing in the chat. The 2016 Warriors can't compare to the 2000 Lakers. Shaq and Kobe were on God mode back in the day. And, that is true. And I do understand that take. But you also have to look at it from the other perspective. Because, I mean, the reason why I'm talking about this is because Draymond and Shaq, they brought this up. And they were talking about their respective championship teams. And they both brought up some really good points because Shaq was thinking who is going to guard me and don't say Andrew Bogut. But I think the biggest difference that those Lakers are going to have to like adjust to is the defensive schemes, because back then in 2000s the NBA teams, they were only able to play man. And if you're doubling, you had to commit to that double. You can't hedge, you can't play zone, you can't do any of that. But if they were to play against the Warriors with their defensive strategy and their defensive scheme, that would mean that the Warriors could implement zone on them. It depends on the rules that we're going to follow as well. Are we going to use the modern rules where you can allow zone to be played? Because I think the Lakers would 100% struggle if they played in zone. Like if they played a defense that was primarily playing in zone, because the lineup that the Lakers had with Derek Fisher, Kobe Bryant, Rick Fox, Horace Grant, and of course Shaquille O'Neal. Horace Grant was not a good shooter. Like, he just wasn't. And having two paint presences in a zone defense is not ideal. Granted, I mean, this is Shaq we're talking about, so I'm sure Shaq would make do with what is given to him. But another thing that should also be taken into consideration is the amount of three-pointers that the 2016 Warriors shot as opposed to the amount of three-pointers that the Lakers shoot. Now, obviously, I mean, like, with Shaq in the paint getting guaranteed twos 9 out of 10 times, there's a good chance that they wouldn't need to take that many three-pointers when matching up against each other. But I am a little bit, like, I am questioning in my mind, like, how would the zone defense fare against this Lakers team? Because we weren't able to see a team play zone against this Lakers team. It was literally, then that's what gave Shaq such a huge advantage. The fact that Shaq would mainly be, he would, let me rephrase that. Defenders that are guarding Shaq would be forced to play a one-on-one, and forcing Shaq to pass would be the most ideal play. And if you have a zone, that just makes it a lot easier to force Shaq to pass. And on top of that, the three-pointers that the Warriors shoot compared to the three-pointers that the Lakers shoot, I mean, if you do the math, shooting threes, I mean, if you make the threes and they're making twos, the team that's making threes is eventually going to come out with that lead. And like that's just simple math. Now, the 2016 Warriors is a little bit more questionable to me. Now, the 2017 or 2018 Warriors, I have a feeling that that Warriors team would beat the Lakers team no problem. Simply because, like, again, like, I understand that the Lakers were good. They came one game away from sweeping the entire league. But that 2017 Warriors team also came one game away from sweeping the entire league. And they had to play a 7-game series throughout the entirety of the postseason, where in 2001 the Lakers, they only had to play in a 5-game series against in the first round, because back then it was like the rules were you had to win 3 games. It was a best of 5, not a best of 7 in the first round, and then the rules eventually changed. So, but that Warriors team in 2017, they came one game away from sweeping the entire league, and the one game that they lost was when the Cavs shot better from the 3 than they did. And Steph Curry and Klay Thompson played rather poorly in that game as well. But with that team, the 2017 Warriors, I think they would win against the Lakers hands down. I mean, Kevin Durant on the roster, along with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and the rest of the players that are coming off of the bench, that is so many three-pointers that is really difficult to come back from. And I know the Lakers, they have tremendous defense, but I mean, you could put a hand up in Curry's face and it's not going to do anything. You could put a hand up in Klay's face, and 9 times out of 10 it's not going to do anything. And you can't put a hand up in Kevin Durant's face. I mean, Rick Fox guarding Kevin Durant or Horace Grant guarding KD, I don't know what he would do to them. But like, that's just me, and that's my take on it. Granted, it could go either way, which is why I picked the 2016 Warriors, because it's a much more even matchup than the 2017 Warriors. And one thing that Shaq talked about was who's going to guard Kobe. And I mean, Klay Thompson, people tend to forget, but Klay Thompson was a very well-respected 3-and-D defender. And again, like, most of the time, the best players and the best guards would be guarded by Klay Thompson. And obviously, Kobe on Klay Thompson, it sounds like, a cakewalk for Kobe. But I wouldn't be surprised if Klay makes his life a little bit difficult. I mean, we saw how Kobe played in 2004, where he was missing a lot of difficult shots, and Kobe takes a lot of difficult shots. So there's no telling, like, just how good they're going to play. And it's a toss-up for me, to be honest, because so many things can happen. And, Lil Fettuccine, he has one more question. So who's winning the finals? Honestly, no idea. It depends on who makes it out of the next round. So I have the Celtics making it to the finals. If the Celtics match up against the Mavericks, I have a feeling that the Celtics are going to win in that matchup. But if they match up against the Timberwolves, I have a feeling that the Timberwolves are going to win in that matchup, simply because the Timberwolves' defense is going to be on par with the Celtics' offense. And with the Mavericks, I feel like their offense is a little bit unpredictable, especially when they go up against a really good defense. Granted, I mean, the Timberwolves, they have I'm really not entirely sure. Like, I'm not even going to lie to you. It's really difficult to pinpoint exactly, like, which team is going to win the finals. But I'm sorry, but I feel a little bit more lenient on the Western Conference teams more so than the Celtics. I mean, the Celtics, they just, whenever anyone puts faith in them, they lose. Like, it's happened so many times throughout history. Whenever anyone puts faith in the Celtics, they lose. And I have a really difficult time in trusting the Celtics, and I wouldn't be surprised if, any of the Western Conference teams beat the Celtics in the finals. But that's basically like my opinions on that. And I feel like the West, whichever team comes out of the West, is going to end up winning the championship. That is my take. But with that out of the way, I mean, that's basically all that we have for the fifth segment, and that's it for the show. So thank you so much for tuning in to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to subscribe to the show and leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. And as usual, please remember to use the link in the description to get your comments recognized, or the link displayed below the ticker on every single show segment. It is gsmcpodcast.net. It really helps the show, makes the show much more interactive between myself and you guys. That is all we have for today on this show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am your host, Nelson, and as always, take care. See you next week. Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit and the